Okay, hello, good afternoon. Thank you all for being here. Today is Tuesday, June the 30th. This is COVID-19, Planning for Your Child with Special Needs. I am Ashley, Client Services Coordinator, and have the privilege of introducing today's presenters. So let's begin with Kim Christian, partner with Russo Law Group. She's the lead planning attorney at our office in Lido, helping clients with estate and elder law planning matters. In 2014, she was recognized by Super Lawyers as a rising star. She's a member of several professional organizations and an active board member on the National Academy of Elder Law Attorneys and the Academy of Special Needs Planners, which makes her the perfect lead speaker for today's topic. Joining her is Frank Bequicchio. He's also a partner with Russo Law and has accumulated over 25 years of planning experience. He's the lead planner in Suffolk County, which includes our Islandia and Bayshore offices. Two important distinctions about Frank is he is a certified elder law attorney by the National Elder Law Foundation, and he's a member of the invitation-only NALA Council of Advanced Practitioners. I would like to mention that we are available to answer your questions. Please send them to us by way of the questions box provided by the Zoom platform. If you're joining us through Facebook, feel free to drop your question using the comments section. Finally, when you close out of Zoom, a prompt to complete a short survey will appear in your web browser. It shouldn't take more than a minute or two, and we would appreciate your feedback. Okay, Frank, if you would, please walk us through today's agenda.
Glad to. Thanks for the intros, Ashley, and Kim, thanks for joining me, or me joining you, whichever way we want to look at it. I guess me joining you because you're going to be the lead presenter today. I'm just going to sit here and throw maybe some questions at you.
Glad to see you.
And thank everyone for joining us today. So yeah, we'll cover planning in general for people with special needs, putting a plan in place, how that will get accomplished. Kim will go into some great detail with that. We're going to talk about the different stages of a special need child's planning. So we'll hit certain specific ages and explain why those are important planning stages. And then we'll talk about public benefits, special needs trusts, and of course, guardianship. So it's going to be a great program. I'm really glad you're all here, and I'm anxious to get started. So first, I think having a plan for all of us is essential. It may even be more so when you have a child with special needs. So planning is going to involve preserving your child's financial security and quality of life, of course, now and when you're gone. And the plan is not just for the child. The plan is going to include the parent. So Kim's going to give some great tips on the planning for the parent as well as planning for the child today.
Right. So Frank, you're right. It's about having a plan in place for both the parent and the child. It's sort of a nexus that you have to cross. You're going to want to preserve your child's financial security and their quality of life.
Go ahead, Ash. So one of the very important planning tools for special needs is the Memorandum of Intent. So Kim, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, the Memorandum of Intent is so important. It's really about working together. It's a guide for family, friends, and advocates. And it's a guide because you know your loved one with special needs. You know what they like to do. You know what they like to eat. You know what their bedtime routine is. You know the ins and outs of their personal workings, and you want to make sure, as important as the financial is, you want to make sure that the emotional guide is there. So a memorandum of intent can be so helpful to looking at the details of the child's personal feelings and their routines.
Yeah, I mean, this is to me a beautiful document for anyone who has a child with special needs, because as Kim said, this is the roadmap for when you're not here. As the parent, all the little ins and outs. The child's likes and dislikes. You have, whether, it's disciplining techniques or specific religions, practices that you want. All of this can be tailored in the memorandum of intent, and it gives whoever's going to be caring for your child later that roadmap, as we said. So a really important document. Okay, Ashley.
I agree.
So let's first talk about the planning for the parents, because we are talking about planning for the child with special needs, but we can't ignore the parents in this situation because they are linked in terms of the planning.
Right. So planning for the parents, I'm going to run down a couple of elements of it. We're going to get into the details as we move along on the presentation. But overall, you want to make sure that you have your estate planning in place. It's probably going to have some sort of living trust or testamentary trust, as well as a last will and testament. I always say to my client, the best way to protect your child is to protect yourself. So you want to make sure you have your advance directives in place, advance directives or documents that say who you would want to make decisions both financially and healthcare wise for you in the event you needed to or you couldn't make your own decisions. Financial planning is also important. We talked about securing your child's financial future, long-term care issues, tackling those issues. What happens if you need long-term care? Are your assets preserved? All of these things are really important. Retirement planning will come into place. And of course, you want to review your life insurance needs, your wills, your trusts, the advance directives, and we're going to get into detail on this, but fiduciary appointments are going to be critical in this plan. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, a supplemental needs trust is one of the most important tools in the toolbox. And the supplemental needs trust, the parent provides for the assets and income to supplement his or her child's needs. So it protects the assets from the government. It allows government benefits to be maintained by the child, such as supplemental security income and Medicaid. On the next slide, I'm going to go into the details of the supplemental needs trust and how it works. So a supplemental needs trust is a third-party trust. And, we talk about third-party trust, we talk about first-party trust, and I'd like to through what third-party means. So a third party is a party other than the person with special needs. It's somewhat, so if my child got savings bonds, for example, for their birthday, and they were in a shoebox and they wanted to put it in a trust, they would not use this kind of trust because they are a first party, right? They're themselves. So a third party is a party, like a parent, a grandparent, someone other than the person with special needs is going to fund this trust. The trust can be revocable or it could be irrevocable. It could be a living trust, but it could also be a testamentary trust. And a testamentary trust means that it's a trust that's established through your will or through your trust and is set up upon your passing. These trusts can be funded with assets such as a house, such as your liquid, such as your life insurance, even your retirement income. And this trust is important because it's you saying, you know what, I'm going to put a document in place that protects my child's benefits, but it also provides for them. And because it's coming from a third party, such as a parent or a grandparent, well, then there is no payback to Medicaid or to the state. Rather, you can name beneficiaries that it passes to in the end as well. So the question is, well, Kim, you're talking about third-party trusts and you're talking about assets of the parents and you're talking about assets of other people, but what happens if the savings bond situation comes up? The situation where, oh, that's right, my child does have assets, or they got, when they were born, or all the birthday presents, or things of that nature. What if they have assets? Can you recommend a trust that's going to allow my child to be eligible for certain benefits? This is called a special needs trust, and this would be called a first-party trust. And this kind of trust protects the assets in the income of a person who's disabled while accessing government benefits. It allows you to maintain those government benefits. So on the next slide, special needs trust for your child. This is, again, the first party trust that I was just referencing. So it would be funded with the assets of the person who's disabled and under 65. Unlike the supplemental needs trust that I just referred to, which is the third party trust, this trust, the trust does have a payback to New York State for Medicaid. So you just want to be mindful that when you're doing this, that there ultimately will be a payback, but it is a nice way to get your child immediately eligible for benefits. This kind of trust must be irrevocable, and we're going to get into one of the most important components of the trust, and that is selecting a trustee. Selecting a trustee. As I promised, no decision is more important. This is or individuals that are going to be administering the trust for your loved ones. So, options. You can certainly select family or a friend, a trusted friend. Sometimes people feel, you know what, I'm going to hire a professional. I'm going to hire a professional because I know that they know the rules of Medicaid eligibility, for example, or SSI eligibility, for example. Some people have a relationship with a bank or a trust company, so they want to go the corporate route, and they appoint a corporate fiduciary. And of course, there's something called the pooled trust, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But a pooled trust is a charitable pooled trust, and you would have a professional from the charity running that trust as well. So a pooled trust for your child. That's an alternative to a special needs trust. So we talked about the first party special needs trust, which would be a separate document that's set up, or a separate trust that's set up, right? But there's an alternative, and it's something called a pooled trust, a charitable pooled trust. And instead of, remember, in the first party trust, I said there's going to be a payback to the state, there's going to be a payback to Medicaid. When you use a charitable pooled trust, the payback is actually the donation to the charity in the end. So the remainder that's in the trust upon your loved one's passing will be donated to the charity instead of going to the estate, to the state. So many people feel, you know what, if I'm going this route, then, you know, I'd like to make a donation. I'd like to support this charity. So sometimes they do pick this option. There's so many different pooled trusts. There's actually a list that you can look at, so you can determine what best suits, you know, which charity you'd like to support. State by state, it varies. There is a trust that's near and dear to our heart. It's called the Teresa Foundation Pooled Trust of New York, and it supports children with special needs, and it focuses on music and dance and art and theater, and it's a wonderful charity. So government benefits for your child. You know, what are some of the government benefits I could access? You know, we talked about the vehicle that you would use to create eligibility or maintain eligibility. Now the question comes down to, well, what government benefits am I thinking of accessing? So we have up here supplemental security income is example of one of those benefits, as well as when it comes to medical, private insurance or Medicaid. So SSI and Medicaid for your child. It's important to drill down on the financially means-tested components of some of these programs, right? Because there's limited assets and income allowed when you want to become eligible to receive these benefits. So what does that mean? So let's take SSI, for example, and I have a feeling one of the slides that's coming up will have eligibility rules, but SSI, for example, says you can't have assets more than $2,000. Well, you know, so that means we have to make sure that we're on top of the planning and make sure that we're setting up these trusts or doing what we need to do to make sure that that child is eligible. Now, there's something called parental deeming. What is parental deeming? Parental deeming is if I am applying for SSI and I'm under the age of 18, it's important to realize that it's not necessarily just the child's assets that are in their name and income that are going to be counted, but they're also going to be looking to the parents' assets as well. Because when you're under the age of 18, there is still deeming. So oftentimes that will reduce the chances or eliminate the chances of a child under 18 receiving SSI. Not always, but it's important fact to know about. There's also deeming for Medicaid, parental deeming for Medicaid, where they're going to consider the parents' assets as well. And this deeming ends at age 21. So we were talking about planning in stages, right? When should you be thinking of doing things? What should you be looking at certain ages? So I kind of staggered this presentation, and I'm going to give you a sampling of, of where benchmarks where to be at certain ages of your child. So for example, planning for your child at age 14. So SSI, if I am thinking of possibly applying for SSI, I want to make sure I'm preparing to qualify at age 18, because remember, that's when the parental deeming stops. Why is it important at 14 to be looking prospectively to 18? Well, it's important to know that there's a 3-year look-back period for transfers for SSI. So for example, if I took my child's bonds that I was talking about and I retitled them, I transferred out of the child's name to a non-exempt trust, well, I'd be looking at a 3-year penalty, a 3-year look back. And transfer penalty rules would be imposed based on that look back and based on the amount of assets that were transferred, the value of them. So what you want to be doing is hey, I want to be thinking in advance, because if there's something I need to be doing as far as eligibility, I want to make sure I'm on top of this. At all times, you want to be reviewing your will as a parent, your trust, and your advance directives. You want to make sure, hey, wait, I'm going to have my child go on SSI, and you just told me that he or she can't have more than $2,000 in assets. Well, I better make sure that my will doesn't leave a portion of my estate to that child outright, because that has the potential clearly of giving more assets to them than is allowed. So in a lot of instances, you just want to make sure your will has a built-in trust component to it to protect that child. You want to make sure that you have the proper trust in place, also advance directives such as a power of attorney, a healthcare proxy, a living will, a HIPAA authorization, all things that can help you make sure that your goals are achieved. Lastly, on this slide, you want to update your memorandum of intent, right, at any age. I know for myself, I have children. As they grow, their needs change, right? Their propensities for things change, their habits change, their feelings change. So on an ongoing basis, I just want to be making sure that I'm updating that memorandum of intent.
I just want to jump in here quick for a second. 2 things so far. Great job, Kim. Just on the planning for the parents, one of the things we see a lot, especially parents who have children with special needs, is sometimes they know enough about the asset rules. For example, I know my child can't have any money, and if they do, they'll lose their benefits. So I guess I can't leave them anything in the will. So they'll just disinherit the child completely. And maybe, for example, let's say, I've got 4 children. So let's say one of them has special needs. Sometimes parents will just leave everything to the other 3 and hope that, those 3 children will do the right thing. So it's important, the supplemental needs trust that Kim has been talking about, that you can provide for your special needs child in a way that does protect their benefits. The other thing I just want to remind people too is that if you have any questions, we're hoping to have some time at the end to answer a few questions. You can type them in the question box. Okay, thanks, Kim.
No problem. All right, so as promised, we're doing this in stages. So we just spoke about age 14. So what happens for planning for your child at age 17? Well, you want to be thinking about decision making, and you want to be thinking, okay, perhaps guardianship, and we'll talk about that a little more in detail in a moment. You want to be thinking again about SSI eligibility. Did I do what I need to do? Did I set up the trust? Am I eligible? Am I ready? You want to think about review of wills, trust, advance directives of the parent. I know I had that on the prior slide, but I put it again on this slide because even, 3 years later, you still should be making sure that your wills, trusts, and advance directives meet the needs of your overall plan. And again, memorandum of intent, so important. 3 years go by, I'm pretty sure things might change, right? And if they haven't changed, well, maybe you just reinforce what you had in the first place. So it's a really good idea to always be taking a fresh look at the memorandum of intent.
So at age 17, with Kim mentioned decision-making and guardianship, so what's the magic thing that happens at age 18 that we should start thinking about this at age 17?
Right, and I think if we go to the next slide, we'll be right on the mark. And you're right, Frank. So what happens at age 18? Well, if your child is under the age of 18 in New York, right, this is a New York law, if your child is under the age of 18, well, then a parent makes the decisions of the child, right? They're the natural guardian, so they're able to make healthcare and financial decisions. But, and I know for us parents out there, they'll always be our child, but under the law, when your child reaches the age of 18 in New York, you actually lose that right to make decisions. So, whether it be a healthcare decision, whether it be a financial decision, you want to make sure that you're in a position that you're still able to assist your child with financial or healthcare decision making. So a legal guardian would need to be appointed by the court unless your child executed a durable power of attorney, a healthcare proxy, and your living will. So in our office, you know what? We want to meet with your child. We want to know, okay, do they have the ability to sign a power of attorney, which is for financial decisions? Do they have an ability to sign a healthcare proxy, which is for healthcare decisions? If they do, we're going to have them do that. That way that everybody is in a position to help each other. You as parents are in a position to help your child with special needs without having to become a guardian and go through the guardianship court. With that being said, that's not always the case. And there is a process where you can apply to be a guardian so that you can manage their finances and their health care. So on the next slide, we'll talk about what court are we going to be in? Well, we're going to be in the guardianship court. All right, there is a specific court for people who are looking to become a person's guardian. Generally speaking, the court is friendly by means of, look, everybody's trying to help this person. So it's not necessarily adversarial. It's more of, let's all get on the same page and make sure that this person is able to make financial and healthcare decisions for their loved one. The legal guardian of the person and the property. What does that mean? Well, you want to make sure you understand that, do you want to be legal guardian of the person, the personal issues, and of the property, which would be financial and monetary. Generally speaking, you're going to want to have the broadest power so you can help that person with everything. You also want to make sure you have standby guardians. Standby guardians are so important, right? So yeah, as a mom, I want to be the legal guardian, but we have to confront the reality that there could be a time where something happens to me, and I just want to make sure that I have the appropriate standby guardian in place to help my child with special needs. And then it's important to understand the responsibilities of being a legal guardian. You're going to take on the role, or the legal guardian, whoever that may be, is going to be taking on the role of managing the person's personal affairs and financial affairs. So now we're up to age 21, planning for your child at age 21. Well, as I said earlier, parental deeming stops at age 21 for Medicaid. So you may be looking at your child receiving Medicaid benefits. So parents, again, you just want to make sure you review your estate plan. And as always, you want to be taking a fresh look at that memorandum of intent. So I'm going to let Frank jump in here now. But it's important to know that there are so many resources out there regarding special needs attorneys and websites. Frank, you want to just take that?
Yeah, sure. So yes, as Kim said, there is a wealth of information. You know, some of this is going to require doing some homework. The Academy of Special Needs Planners is their website has a tremendous amount of information, webinars that have been done over the past are saved to the website. You can ask questions of special needs attorneys, and these are attorneys who are focused in this area. Special Needs Alliance is a similar organization that does similar service. The National Academy of Elder Law Attorneys, which is a group that actually our managing partner, Vincent Russo, helped found a number of years ago with a handful of attorneys across the country. And now it's become a leading organization for elder law and special needs, and Elder Council as well. And you see the websites there if you want to check out the information. And Kim mentioned the pooled trust before too. There are about 22 or 3, I think, the last I counted in New York. And if you just Google pooled trust in New York, you'll come up with the list, the official list, I should say. And if they're on the list, that means that they've been approved by New York State. So a lot of great information there as well. All right, so what do you do now? Which is our question to you. But I think the obvious thing is create a plan if you don't have one. It's never too late. So, one of the reasons we're doing this now is because this whole COVID-19 pandemic has caused all of us, I think, to kind of sit and reflect on I guess, mortality, among other things, and the importance of having a plan. So if you don't have a plan, it's critical that you contact us or contact, a special needs planning attorney and get that ball rolling. If you already have a plan, have it reviewed. When was the last time you had your plan reviewed? When was the last time you reviewed your will or your power of attorney? And hopefully you have them. If you don't, as I said, we can't express how important it is to get these documents in place. And then implementation, of course, is the key. Okay, next, I think that we're up to questions and answers. So I've got one here, Kim, which is, can you give some examples of what the supplemental needs trust can be used for?
Yeah, so, the key word in understanding what the supplemental needs trust is used for is the word supplemental. So what you're doing is you're not supplanting, you're not paying for things that are already paid for by, for example, Medicaid or SSI. It's going to be things regarding quality of life. So, for example, my child would like a TV for their room, right? That would be something that would enhance their quality of life. Well, that's not something Medicaid is covering. So that is something, for example, that the Supplemental Needs Trust could cover for them. Or, for example, they need some like construction or something to, help with the home and things in the home to help accommodate them. You could use that sometimes for that. So it's going to be things that aren't already covered by Medicaid or SSI that you're allowed to use it for.
Yeah, that's a great answer. I mean, that's the bottom line is I call it quality of life money.
Yes.
Great examples of vacation is another good example. The family wants to go on a vacation. You can use that money to pay for the special needs person. You can use that money to pay for somebody to come with that person if they need assistance. Yeah, great example. Let's see, hold on, we have another one here. Let's see, you're speaking of parents setting up trusts and related documents. Especially as a child, do the same rules apply to a non-parent setting up a trust and related documents as the parents? So I think the general answer to that question is yes. So Yes, we are. We spoke pretty specifically about parents and children, but certainly grandparents, aunts, uncles can set up can mention the third-party trust before. We are often setting up third-party trusts by other loved ones who just have an interest in providing for somebody who has special needs, and it doesn't even have to be in their family. It could be. I had a client who her goddaughter had special needs, and they were not related at all, other than the fact that she was the goddaughter. There's no blood relation, and she wanted to set up a trust for her goddaughter, so that there was money, supplemental needs trust money set aside for her when she passed away. All right, so I hope that answered the question for you. I think there's another one here. If a young adult is not currently on government benefits, but may be in the future, does special needs trust make sense? Sure. So I guess young adult, it depends on the age, number one. And number two, just to kind of be nitpicky here, the difference between special needs trust and supplemental needs trust. So I guess as Kim pointed out before, it depends on whose money we're talking about. So if the young adult has their own money, depending on the nature of their abilities, and I think probably an in-depth discussion with the attorney, you can make a decision whether or not it makes sense to set up a trust now or wait. But you got to keep in mind if it's going to be something like SSI, that there will be a 3-year look back. Okay, I think that's all we have at the moment for questions. So we feel like we stand out. We do things differently. We have, in terms of office locations, we have Long Island covered, and New York City, frankly. So we are likely close to where you are. We're very strong in handling crisis situations. That's something that we've been doing for a number of years. That comes up a lot, unfortunately, because people do not always do advanced planning. We're involved in the community. Kim mentioned the Teresa Foundation Pool Trust before. The law firm and a number of the attorneys and staff often do a lot of volunteer work with the foundation and support it in a number of ways. We have a network of attorneys around the country. So if somebody, and we get these calls all the time, I'm sure Kim does as well, from clients and others who, do you know somebody who's in Florida and, in this particular area? Do you have a similar attorney that in North Carolina? So we have a network of attorneys that we can refer people to. We also have upcoming events, so it's a good idea to check our website. There's specifically a crisis response page, but we're always doing webinars, and hopefully someday we'll get back to doing face-to-face seminars. It'd be nice to see people in person again, right, Kim? Uh-oh, we lose Kim.
I'm here.
Oh, okay.
I agree. I'm looking forward to see everybody in person. So hopefully we can make that happen soon. But I agree with everything you said. And I hope that this presentation was helpful, and it just shed some light on, what I should be thinking about and what I should be implementing, because as Frank said, it's really important to have.
Yeah, we really appreciate those who watched, taking time out of their day to listen to us, Kim more specifically. And Kim, thank you again. You did a terrific job. And if anybody has any questions, you can always contact us through the office or through the website. Have a great 4th of July and summer.
Yes, and stay safe and well. Take care.